Hey everyone, you found the Don't Suck at AI podcast, where you'll hear from AI industry icons about how their companies are producing successful AI solutions that are changing the way we do business today and into the future. So here's your host, John Lindsey.
All right, I will kick us off.
Okay.
All right. Welcome, everybody. John here. This is the Don't Suck at AI podcast, where we absolutely love to have fantastic leadership come sit down and share with me what they're doing in the space that they're working in, whether it be legal, technology, or what have you, and things that are absolutely pioneering the industry forward. And I am so lucky today to have Brittany Hernandez here from Gavel. She's going to talk to us about things like documents slowing your firms down, driving you nuts, and how we've got an enormous fix for that. And we're going to talk about some new releases that they got coming out that she's going to tease a little bit. That's pretty exciting. So let me tell you a little bit about Brittany. First of all, I've seen her rap. So, I mean, you know I've got to go about music. Yes. I've seen her rap. She sent me a video. She was kind enough. She was dropping the beat. So, you know, at some point, we're going to have to do something together. She has spent time in Europe. She's in California. You're in California now? Where are you now?
I'm in California now.
Mm-hmm. She is absolutely brilliant. I actually met her the first time when she was hosting a panel that somehow I stumbled on to being able to talk to. And she was so kind to me, made me feel so comfortable. And I couldn't wait to follow back up with her because it was just such an endearing conversation and opportunity. And I couldn't wait to get her on the podcast to talk a little bit about what she's doing over at Gavel. Brittany, hello. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining me. Thank you. We finally got rid of my sister calling in.
I know.
Beverage talk. We've covered the Iron Man, the Tough Mudder. Now
we've gone through a lot.
We've got to go software. So I think we got to talk software.
We've definitely gone through a lot of content already, but I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's so kind of you to say that also about the panel, which was very enlightening. That was through the Law Droid conference that Tom Martin ran. So obviously such a great conference. I feel like we both know a lot of the same people. So I'm excited that we get to chat today.
Through that. Well, so I gave a little introduction about you. Tell us something that I missed. What did I miss about Brittany that you want to share with everybody before we get the conversation going?
For sure. The first thing I would say is that I'm a lawyer too. So I definitely have experienced all of the pain points that we're going to talk about today. I've experienced them myself. I was a solo back in 2020 when I first became a lawyer. I went off and did more schooling because I just couldn't get enough of school. So I went and got a master's degree in international film business. That's when I got interested in legal technology. So everything that I talk about today really comes from my own perspective and pain points and really experiencing all these things myself.
Nice. Well, so let's frame it up for people that don't know, first of all, who Gavel is. So talk to me about the company. What is Gavel? What do they do? What do they bring to the market? Share with me what attracted you to them.
Yeah, excellent question. So Gavel is a document automation solution for lawyers. It lets you take your Word or PDF templates and turn them into a kind of a question and answer session. And the differentiating factor here is that you get a lot of control over the rules that go into how the documents are generated. So you get to put conditions around which questions get seen. So if somebody doesn't have children, it will skip over that section. If somebody is not married, it will skip over all the questions about the spouse. And then you can get really complex and granular about what clauses get shown or are hidden when you generate the documents, which documents are generated at the end of this questionnaire. You can make it to where you actually separate this out from the internal usage within the law firm, for example, just generating documents to prepare for clients, and actually turn this into a legal product that you can have be client facing and turn that into a revenue generator, which we've seen. So there's a lot of different aspects to that. And then also Gavel is very innovative and forward thinking from the AI space. So we actually are launching a new tool very soon called Gavel Exec, which is on the other side of the process. So we have kind of the document generation process where you're drafting documents and you're drafting multiple documents at once with all these different rules that you've set. And then on this other side with Gavel Exec, this is the piece that is more on the review side. So when you receive a document that has all these different changes that the opposing counsel has made, you can go through and say from within Word document, sorry, that's going to be an edit piece, from directly within Microsoft Word, you're going to be able to ask in the chat, say something like, summarize all of the different changes that opposing counsel has made upon receiving this document. Go through and make sure that and check against market terms to make sure that these are in line with what's market, right? So You can also run your own playbook. So it's just really exciting to see that Gavel as a company has not really stayed just in one lane, but has really focused on how can we look at the overall workflow of a lawyer and add in these different useful elements along the way.
Nice. And so tell me a little bit about who the client is. So are they big? Are they small? Are they across the board? Is it firms? Is it departments? Tell me who you serve.
So we generally serve solo and small firm lawyers. So we do have a lot of enterprise clients as well, but we tend to really focus on the needs of that particular group because there are a lot of companies out there who are focusing on the enterprise market, and we appreciate that. But we also want to help the people who are like me, where I am desperately in need of technology that can help me. So it's more of a solo small firm lawyer in the areas of estate planning, family law, corporate, real estate, immigration, all these kind of document heavy practice areas.
How long has Gavel been around? When did they come into origination?
Yeah, so Dorna started the company back in 2017. It started actually as a legal product, which was really interesting. So she was a big lawyer at Lee Austin. She saw the opportunity when she was doing pro bono work to help people who were survivors of domestic violence. She created this tool that made it to where they were able to, for about $15, fill out their own documents to get temporary restraining orders. And then her services would also help with filing and all that kind of stuff. So people were asking her, can we use this for our firm? Can we turn this into something that we can use internally? Can we create similar legal products like you've made here? So then it kind of pivoted from a direct to consumer type of product to a business to business SaaS model. So that's how we've become who we are today.
Awesome story. And I hadn't heard that story. And that is amazing that, again, out serving people that really need it, maybe can't even afford it, and giving them an opportunity to be able to make sure that they have the appropriate tools to get representation and get the things they need to done. That is huge. Absolutely huge. I love stories like that. So that makes this even more special for sure.
Yeah, Dorna's super inspiring. I met her about 5 years ago, right after I graduated from law school. I took a course that was called Password to Practice. I also did another one called, at the same time, called Bucherius Legal Tech Essentials, which is the one that is a school based out of Germany. And it just made it to where we were introduced to the concepts of legal technology. We got to have hands-on experience with all of these different tools. So she's been really involved in that. And I think kind of in this space, people will see her as a leader for sure.
Well, that's motivational just to hear what she did from a personal perspective. That way out trumps anything that we could talk about today that's bits and bytes stuff. So
yeah,
high marks for that. Let's talk a little bit about just first in general. You said you've been there for 5 years doing this, which means that the market when you came into it dramatically different, obviously.
Oh yeah.
AI not here, everything that's kind of been the shakeup in this industry 2.5 years ago. So let's talk just for a second about just AI in general. So
yeah,
what do you see out there right now in terms of firms and their desire and needs? Are they confused? Are they begging for this kind of technology? Where are most of the clients that you're dealing with today in terms of their AI walk? Are they using AI?
This is a really good question. I think what's really interesting from what I'm seeing is there's kind of a progression over time. I think there was hesitancy and resistance at first, which I also experienced myself for many different reasons. And I think a lot of that probably came from it's new, we're slow to adopt technology and kind of change and innovate because we're such a traditional industry. But also, I think there was a lot of news around people who were using it and getting in trouble for using it. And we want to protect our licenses. So I think that's completely fair. And then I think from there, we had a lot of CLEs about AI. We got more guidance around AI from different bar associations. We finally got some specific guidelines from the ABA. I feel like there's been a lot more in the past maybe year and a half of ways that people are getting educated about AI. And so that led to more curiosity. And then I think now we're kind of in an urgency stage. So it went from kind of like hesitancy to curiosity to urgency. Like if I don't use this right now, I'm going to not be competitive as a firm anymore because other firms are going to incorporate this and they're going to be able to provide services faster and at a better cost than I can, I'm going to still be stuck in this kind of billable hour model that is not going to work for people anymore. So I think it's kind of shifted in many different ways to now I feel people are very willing to pay for these types of tools if they understand that they are going to be in compliance with the different standards that we've, especially from our like rules of professional conduct. You know, we don't want to be in violation of any of those. That comes around confidentiality and, you know, reasonable billing and all these other pieces.
Well, so you've got a new tool that's coming out. It's going to start exploiting some of this functionality. And so let's talk a little bit about, you know, how that came about, why it's important, and what it ultimately does to the tool, your original foundational tool, to take it to that next level, because obviously that's what it's really all about, is that leveraging AI, not for AI's sake. This is where we have people like you on here to talk about things that don't suck. This absolutely does not suck. We have practical applications, great use cases, right? People are really going to benefit from this. Let's talk a little bit about what that means.
Yeah. So just to be clear on this, because like you mentioned, there's two different tools. So Gavel Workflows is the tool that focuses specifically on document automation and generation. So that would be the tool that does have generative AI pieces as well, but focuses more on a rules-based automation approach. So what that means is in that tool, you can take your Word into PDF documents, you can drop them into the system. The generative AI feature called Blueprint is going to look for all of the places that might be good variables or places that would repeat, but be different from matter to matter or person to person, for example. So that would be things like client name, client address, spouse's name, etc. So it's going to suggest using that kind of AI feature of understanding the context for what this document is placed in, the world is placed in, and suggest that, okay, you might want to ask a question about this here, use this kind of question type, and then you say draft workflow. It's going to create that questionnaire for you and attach the documents, and then also insert all of those variables into your documents for you. So that's kind of piece number one. So then anytime you want to actually generate that set of documents, you just go to your dashboard, you say run, you fill out the questions or push them in from another data source, and it will populate all those documents at once. So that's use case number one. So that's more on the drafting side. Now, we talked then about the practical use of Gavel Exec, for example, on the review and negotiation and redlining side. So on that side, that is going to be one where typically what will happen is you are in, let's say, a real estate matter where you are representing the landlord and the opposing counsel is representing the tenant. You drafted an agreement, or you received an agreement from the other person, from opposing counsel. They want to make different changes in the document. So let's say it's the example that you sent it over as the landlord, they've made revisions and sent it over to you. You can open up Gavel Exec and say, summarize all of the different changes that were made in this document. Okay, it looks like they have tried to change the terms around damages and destruction to make it more favorable to the tenant. Let's check this against market standards, make sure that it's still in line based on their changes. For example, you could also run a playbook. So a lot of time what people will do is they'll have a playbook of different rules that say, like, if this particular agreement is in this jurisdiction, or if, for example, we want it to be weighed more favorably for the landlord versus the tenant, then run this particular type of rule. So instead of having to check against those manually, you can just have your entire playbook in Gavel Exec and say, run this playbook. And it's going to go off of your own rules and say, okay, checking against your rule book and checking your playbook and checking against this document, here are things that have failed, the reason why, and what our suggestion is for you to change it. And then all you have to do is say apply change, and that's going to redline that document for you. So it's really exciting to get to see that you can have these artificial intelligence, pieces throughout the different overall workflow of a lawyer and all of the different touch points that you go through when you're, preparing a matter or negotiating a matter for your clients. So it's really exciting.
No, it's super exciting. And you pointed out something, and we had talked about this in a conversation prior where, look, that's what lawyers do, and lawyers are doing that all day long. We get that. But then there are other use cases that don't involve just lawyers, because they're not the only people that are involved in this contract process, right? So there is opportunity to be able to gain a lot of value from this and do things like accelerate your revenue cycle, right? Make sales go faster, close deals faster, because you can get a lot of this stuff done with your group of people. So this is inclusive. You don't have to just be a lawyer to use this. Talk to me about how easy this is to learn. Dumb guy here like John wants to figure out how, right? I want to be part of that contract cycle because I want to be able to close deals too. Where the money is. So how do people outside of just being lawyers, how do we use tools like this?
Yeah. So I think this is a really good question because it kind of represents, a lot of the marketing side of things. So essentially when you create a tool, it's a tool that could be used by anyone for anything because it helps to, create, you can take your documents, you can turn them into automations, or you can review or summarize them, or you can run your playbooks. We are lawyers, so we're coming from that perspective. And so when we market this tool or talk about this tool and we choose an audience that we want to focus on, we want to pick a vertical, then we've chosen lawyers as that piece. But as you mentioned, lawyers can be one piece of a larger, whole corporation. It could be that they're in-house. It could be that they're advising a startup and the startup has other pieces that they want to use it for. So it's definitely available as something that people can use, especially on the Gavel workflow side. That is, it's doesn't have anything to do with jurisdiction, practice area, type of document that you're trying to automate. I've been known to kind of play with it a little bit more and have more out of the box and different ideas of what you can use it for. So that absolutely is something that if you have any type of document that you need to automate and it has these rules that you can run every single time, then that is a tool you can use whether you're a lawyer or you're in some other aspect of the business. For Gavel Exec, it has been trained more specifically on certain practice areas such as corporate and real estate law, and then that will expand later. So the context for which the model is thinking about the document might not be as relevant if you're trying to use it for some other kind of sales document or some kind of HR document. So just keep that in mind. But if you wanted to train it yourself and have your own playbooks, then you can start to create those rules from which it's going to pull from. You're also able to feed in that context. So whatever documents you're looking at, if they're not in the space of what it's initially been trained for, then you can provide that context for it if you'd still like to use the tool.
Love it. Love it. And so when I think of this, you're talking about several things. You're talking about efficiency. You're talking about getting things done faster, which means obviously closer to money. You're talking about less mistakes, more reliable. You're talking about cost savings along the way. But, that brings up a question, I got to go there because everybody's asking this question today and you can't come on an AI podcast and not talk about it. So these things are going to help us do our job better. These things, they're not things that are going to steal our job. They're not going to take our jobs away. They're not going to. So talk to me about how you have conversations with people today about that concern, because it is a concern of people's. It's a big concern of people's. It's one of the biggest pushbacks I hear from people right now going, oh my gosh, I really don't want to use it, but they're telling me I got to use it at some point. Oh my gosh, I'm worried about it doing things better than me, faster than me, and I'm not going to need me anymore. And I've heard lawyers really concerned about, their value because that's what they do. Talk to me about your take on how AI fits into this whole world of legal without being a bad thing. It's a good thing. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, I actually just heard this quote today and I'm going to misquote it horribly, but it's this idea that, AI is not here. It's not meant to replace lawyers. It's meant to give them superpowers. So it's this idea that it's not about replacing you. It's about this idea of how can we augment or complement your work and have the AI understand the way that you work better so that it can respond in the way that you would, but you're the one that is telling it what you want it to do. I know with agents now, there's kind of more of a little bit of an autonomous agent kind of action where you initiate it and then it goes through and does all these other things. And that's kind of a separate conversation as well. But the idea here is that there's nothing that will replace you talking to me about the Iron Man stuff that you get to do and your grandkids and the drink that you're drinking or whatever the case may be. Just those ideas of human connection is a piece that will never be able to be replaced by AI, for example. So I feel like there's that element of you're the one that's going to be sitting next to your client in court. You're going to be the one that is on the phone with them, talking them through their issues. You're going to be the one that's helping to support them, through that process and understanding that empathy that you have for your clients is always going to be valuable. So I feel like that's a piece as well of, there is something about human connection that we all recognize is important. And then this kind of stuff is supposed to just help you have more time to do those things, more time spent with your client and being in court for them, being able to help more people because you haven't spent all of your time wasted on manual data entry. And you've been able to speed up the process of reviewing a contract that you got back that's 80 pages long. And you're able to say, okay, this is my style, revise this and format it in the way that I would do that. So I feel like those, if we understand the kinds of things that AI is helping us with, then we can understand the value that we bring as humans to the table.
No, I love it. I feel the same way. I mean, I think that, the technology we build is usually human in the loop. And I don't see, at least in my lifetime, in our industry where that's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, as you said, it's going to help us do our jobs better. It's going to be more concise.
Yeah.
It's going to be more precise. It's going to allow us, if we do it right, it's going to allow us to have more time to do exactly what you just said, which was serve your client better, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you take time to show some empathy to people who are going through it really, because look, usually when people need lawyers, it's not because they're having a lot of fun. So, right?
True.
So it's oftentimes a very stressful period of time for them. So if the tools can take care of the X's and O's and taking care of all the things that they need to provide, and the human can focus on that connection point, it's just like a doctor. I don't like going to doctors that are cold and unfeeling.
Yeah.
So same thing with lawyers, right? As somebody who runs a business, I want to deal with lawyers who really understand, that feel my pain, that know what I'm going through, and they take the time to make me feel okay about it. And it has always seemed to me that if we give them tools that they can do that stuff faster with the X's and O's and bits and bytes, then they should have more time to be able to understand their clients, what they feel, shepherd them through the process. It's they're the Sherpa. In an Ironman race, you don't make it without your Sherpa, man. My wife is my Sherpa. You can't do it without it. It's the same thing here, right? You want somebody right by your side that understands what you're going through and says, hey, it's going to be okay. I got you covered. I got you covered. I got you covered. That human piece. I don't think as human beings, we're ever going to give that up. So great answer. I love it.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about, as we wrap this up, first of all, two things. Where do people go find you? And people are going to have questions about what they've just heard, and they're going to want to chat with you. So where are you? Are you everywhere on social media? You're LinkedIn alone? Where do they go find Brittany?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with anyone who wants to chat through all these different pieces. You can also directly email me at Brittany@gavel.io, BRITTANY@gavel.io. My boss, Dorna, actually is the one who has she's the Instagram famous one. You can follow her at Dorna_@_Gavel. So definitely check her out because she does a lot of like AI tips and tricks and things like that. It's very non-salesy, very like educational and thought leadership style. So definitely check her out. And then if you want to just poke around and get used to and get a free trial of Gavel, the workflows piece, you can go to gavel.io. And then on the Gavel Exec side, you can do gavel.io/exec.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about we framed it up. We know the product's coming. Give us a time frame. So we're sitting here beginning of May, and so when are people going to see this and be able to start utilizing the product? Because that's what everybody's going to want to know. When's it out? Give me the reveal. Are we doing a reveal?
We're doing a reveal.
All right, do the reveal, man. What do we got?
So right now we're, like you said, we're at the beginning of May. So we have just done 2 recent sessions where it's a little bit of a smaller group. We have a wait list with about over 100 people who are on this wait list. So we're rolling it out to our initial beta users first. They're giving us feedback. Then we're rolling it out to the wait list, giving us feedback. Once we've been able to respond to that feedback, we're going to launch it more publicly. This should be about mid-May. I'm also excited to do some pop-ups around LA and San Diego and Riverside soon. So look out for Gavel's logo around Century City, LA, different areas where we're going to be doing some fun brand activations to let you know more about Gavel Exec.
All right. And I want to see it too. So, all right. Well, first of all, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. You're brilliant. I'm a huge fan. So it's come on now. And I can't wait to see the product myself. So I'm excited to see it when it comes out too. So I hope everyone that has tuned in enjoyed the show. And again, I hope you reach out to Brittany and check out Gavel. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised, super impressed. So we always close the show out, Brittany, by saying that's a wrap. But I'm going to let you do it this time because you've got a much better than I do. So let's thank you all for joining us on the Don't Suck at AI podcast. Brittany's going to take us out with a
that's a wrap.
That's a wrap, baby.